Hi, everybody. It's Christina with Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner, and I'm here today with Jane Stone, and she is a licensed realtor with the Ellerbrake Group, part of the Keller Williams Pinnacle here in O'Fallon. We're going to ask Jane a few questions. Hi, Jane. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're just going to jump right into it, okay? Because you have a really interesting story, all right? Tell us about your caregiver experience with your mom.
Well, my mother had been living in her house and was very comfortable there and doing quite well. And then, unfortunately, she had a small trip and fall in her home. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, we knew that she was no longer able to stay in her home. Mm-hmm. So my brother and sister and I had many different ideas about what to do. And my mother did as well. But it came to the point that we knew as her caregivers that we had to take care of putting her house up for sale and having her move. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of different personalities and different things that had to happen. And we just knew that there were a lot of different emotional and physical and financial decisions to make. And when I became a realtor, that weighed a lot on me, and it does to this day. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually working with a family right now where there is a son and a daughter mm-hmm. that are working with their parents, and they're deciding about where mom and dad are going to move. Mm-hmm. And I think that as a realtor, it's just so important to me to work mm-hmm. with people and find out what is important to them and their family and their parents. Mm-hmm. And it just bodes well to me to keep that top of mind when you're working with caregivers. And it reminds me of what happened with my mom. Yeah. You know, that was important.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah. You know? So before we started, we were talking a little bit about the home. A mm-hmm. person's home is their biggest investment that they have in their life. So I feel like that's just even more imperative that you make that connection, or that you made that connection, and that you can help other caregivers make that connection. Can you talk a little bit more about how, I mean, that's such a big it's such a big investment, and then it's your parent on top of it. Can you talk a little bit more about that role?
Right. And with those parents, I mean, they have been there all their lives. Mm-hmm. So there is not only the financial investment that they have been there forever, but there's also all the things that are inside. So there is, different personalities are involved with the kids. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad may not want to get rid of things. They may need to move into that other home. Mm-hmm. They may need to move into whether it's assisted living, or they may be moving into another location or into a home with their siblings. So you have to, as an agent, listen to the different people and what is important to mom and dad, what is important to the siblings, what is important to where they're moving, and figure out what home it is. Right now, we're working with a daughter who is deciding whether she gets a home and mom and dad move in with her, whether she is getting a home and mom and dad build a home next to them, whether mom and dad are going to move somewhere else. And that's, especially in this market right now, that can be kind of tough. Yeah. And so I'm working with the daughter and her husband, who's moving from another state, and mom and dad, who are moving from another part of Illinois. And you just work with all of that. But it is a big investment for two different parties. Yeah. And it reminds me a lot of what we went through with my own mom, and it was just a bittersweet time, but it was working with my brother and sister and I, who had very different thoughts about what to do with my mom. Yeah. And sometimes that could be a little difficult, but our realtor was fantastic about staying in the middle. And that's what is important to me is, staying in the middle and not getting into the middle of sometimes different personalities and different thoughts about what to do, and keeping mom and dad's positions very strong too.
Yeah. So it sounds like your role as a realtor even is really an important role, like you said, for even in the family dynamics or about the family dynamics. Do you know, is that something that is common in the realtor industry, that where there's a real estate agent that maybe takes that role, or they specialize in that role? Do you know, is that common, or is it just something that everybody just kind of falls into?
I think when you're looking for an agent, you find one that you feel most comfortable with. Okay. And I think with one that has experience, you're going to find the one that fits well with your family, but look for one that is comfortable with families, that has the experience, that may be a little bit more apt to handle situations where there's different personalities. And that's something that I've always been able to do with even my previous life working in sales. I loved having a problem with different types of personalities and being able to calm the waters. And you need that in this type of situation, is to stand back and say, what is important to each person? And now let's find a way to have common ground because everybody has a voice, and you have to be,
That's
you know,
right.
you have to listen to everybody's most important pieces of that puzzle, make sure everybody's voices are heard,
Yeah.
and that they're you know, responded to.
Yeah, that's
you think?
fantastic.
Don't
I
you
agree
think?
completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such an important role. Can you give us then maybe an insight on how having been a caregiver has broadened your definition of the role that you do play as a realtor?
I think sometimes I'm actually a little bit more emotional about this.
Yeah.
Because and emotional in a very good way. I think I so enjoy working with families.
Yeah.
And especially when there is a caregiver situation, and especially with the older parents. I love that.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me of working with my mom.
Sure.
So, you know, those are the ones I love.
Yeah. That's great. Tell us about your realty business and what you would like caregivers to know.
You know, for me, I think taking on those types of situations, those challenges for others is great because I like taking that off their plate. If you have this type of unique situation where you have, you know, a parent, or if you have this type of situation specifically, give it to me because I get in there and I love to dig in. I remember with my mom's house, you know, we had to update things. We had to put in new countertops because she hadn't done it. She couldn't. So I knew exactly that we had to put in new countertops or we didn't need to do this. And with our team, we know exactly what does and does not need to be done. And I think sometimes it looks so overwhelming for somebody because they're dealing with their mom. And we had to also put her into different physical therapy locations, which you well know, very overwhelming. And that's where your company is great because you know the different resources on that end. So give that to the kids or to the parents to handle. Let the agent, like myself, handle the other parts and we'll take care of that. And that's what I love doing is handling that and saying, hey, we got this. You take care of what you need to do emotionally. We're going to take care of this part of it. So that's what I love doing.
I love that. So it's like being part of a team.
Absolutely.
And I would say that as caregivers, you don't have to do this alone. There are people out here that are professionals at their job. You don't have to take this on all yourself. What you're doing as a caregiver is enough. You know, and you know, as a caregiver, you have minimal time to, you know, to make some decisions like that. If there are professionals out there that can help take that off your plate, and maybe you get some time for self-care, right?
Right. And you're right. I mean, you're overwhelmed especially when you're a caregiver and you know that, and especially in your position. And just to be able to step back and say, I know that my agent has this. I don't need to worry about it, and have somebody who's proactive makes all the difference with what you can do with your family, especially as a caregiver and with your own family and your parents. So
Jane, let me ask you this. So you have that role kind of where you guys have taken that on, at least as far as the house is concerned, the home is concerned. Do you guys have other resources that you would be able to get caregivers that you work with in touch?
Yeah, thank you for asking that because I'm part of the Ellerbrake group, and Steve Ellerbrake, who heads up our team, was in construction for 14 years. So we have a huge resource list of painters and contractors. Nice. And so, you know, I rely on Steve whenever I have questions about, hey, Steve, we need to get, there might be something with a septic system or something in the crawl space. So we actually are very quick to say to somebody, hey, you may need this done. Well, look, we have the answer for this, or we know who to call in. And we work with local vendors that can come in and get things done. And sometimes it's just an easy fix. It could be a quick fix. It could be something done on the side. And sometimes we've done it ourselves and said, we can come in and we can change out these not the GFIs, or do something with some plates and things very simply. So awesome. We love that we can work because we're right here local and we have a great list of people. So
great. One last question. Just tell our viewers how they can get a hold of you or find out more about what you do.
Absolutely. You can reach me. I'm part of the Ellerbrake group, which is part of Keller Williams Pinnacle, but you can also reach me. I'm Jane Stone, and I can be reached at 618-513-1556.
Very good. Thank you so much for being here with us today,
Thank
Jane.
you.
I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Thank you.